but now the world, or at least the world of TikTok, knows how awesome it is. You posted a video and wow, this thing went very viral. Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Lines, the only podcast purifying the sports betting industry. Remember to like, follow, download. We're on all the socials at inplayLIVE. And if you want to join, we have a special promo code for you, Behind the Lines. So I say we're the only podcast purifying the sports betting industry. Well, how do we do that? We do that by teaching you about the landscape, how to navigate it, and how to watch out for all of the tricks and traps that the sports books lay out for you. All right, Pace, Andrew Pace, the founder of inplayLIVE, our fearless leader. Pace, we have a big update from last week to this week, all about ScoreBet and Barstool. They ended up paying out the advantage line, but they did not pay out the broken line. So for everybody out there who maybe missed last week and is joining us now, we had a bet that took place on week 2 of the NFL season. And basically there was a whole bunch of lines posted for player props. This was on ScoreBet and Barstool. And essentially it, at first there was an advantage line, meaning that the bet hadn't won yet, but it was very close to winning, and it was probably a pretty soft or bad line. And then they kept those lines up even after the bet had already won, making it a broken line. So in the end, they voided all of the broken lines. None of those got paid out, but the advantage lines were paid out over a week later. So it took a bit of time, but we ended up getting paid the advantage lines. Pace, what do you think about all that?
I think that it's great that they paid out the advantage lines. I personally wouldn't have expected it. I think more what intrigues me is, I guess, the whole process of it all. You can really see that this caught them by surprise. It's very much evidence that they didn't know what they were getting into. They didn't have a system in place for how to quickly handle a broken line and a broken situation, both from the standpoint of when it happened. They didn't close the lines right away. Typically, if a sports book, they can detect these crazy levels of activity coming in on their site, and they'll usually be shut down within a matter of minutes, if not seconds, whereas this was almost an entire game, if not an entire game. So they didn't have a process or system in place for that. And then obviously once it had all gone down, figuring out how they were going to handle it, I think they were hoping to have it resolved within 24 hours, and it took over a week. So from my standpoint, I just look at it and I go, another sports book that we might not have around potentially because of their mismanagement of lines and sports books on one side, and then on the other side going, okay, an opportunity to make some money, hopefully not from the standpoint of betting broken lines, but potentially some soft ones and some other flaws, shall we say, in their overall algorithm that we as sports value analysts can exploit.
I noticed yesterday too, during Monday Night Football, that they didn't have any player props available. So I think maybe they're going to review that and have a look at their odds provider. And I think Penn Entertainment owning ScoreBet and I guess the Barstool side of betting now. They had originally, I think, said that they were, after they moved away from Kambi, that they were going to use their own proprietary software. So perhaps they're doing some soul searching, some inward look.
Yeah, I think that transition's already occurred, and that's where a lot of this came from. And this is exactly what we said about WinBet and FoxBet. What does it leave you with? So if you're not competitive and you're not offering a lot of these markets effectively and efficiently, it leaves you with sharp bettors that come and pick up the scraps and the soft lines that you're offering. And that makes it hard to make money or be profitable as a sports book. So hopefully they figure these things out pretty quickly. They definitely have some big money behind them. So I would imagine that they'll make some changes.
So, paying the advantage line, that makes sense, and thank you for paying that out, ScoreBet. We appreciate it, but when it comes to the broken lines, I don't know that there's a realistic expectation that, a sports bettor will get paid for a broken line. I know that some sports books do, and certain odds providers always do honor it. But, if it doesn't get honored, perhaps that expectation shouldn't be there to honor the broken line, because, most likely the sports bettor knew that it was a broken line. But what I found interesting too was that some people had parlayed the broken line with another wager, another game that was going on at the same time to kind of just boost the odds and kind of hope for the best, right? Well, even though the second leg of that wager lost, they still voided the bet. So I thought that was kind of interesting and a sort of a sign of good faith. Yeah. Right.
Is that a sign of good faith, or is that a sign of just complete stupidity?
Yeah. It could be one or the other, I suppose, right? But I thought it was interesting, right? That they voided that side of them. I was thinking, well, hold on, this bet legitimately lost, and they still voided it. So maybe it is a sign of stupidity. I don't know.
That is unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, I was really surprised by it. Score bet.
No, what a book.
Oh, what a book. Yeah, absolutely. What a book.
A great book.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's move on. We've got a lot of other topics to cover on this show today. So we're talking about PointsBet getting fined. There's this thing called BetVision launched. And for all of you out there who don't know, Pace is TikTok famous now. So we're going to get into all of that coming up here.
God.
All right, Pace, let's start off, though. I want to get into PointsBet. PointsBet was fined $25,000 in the state of New Jersey. Now, this was for 3 separate violations. One of them was from October 2021, and this is a esports situation. League of Legends, essentially a competitor under the age of 18, was playing in this competition. And PointsBet allowed people to bet on it, but you're not allowed to do that in the state of New Jersey because the person was under the age of 18. It was a small amount of action, I think $1,200 or something like that. Anyway, PointsBet ended up voiding all of the bets. Okay, so that's one. Second violation, March Madness 2022. PointsBet allowed people to bet on St. Peter's during the tournament. St. Peter's is a school located in New Jersey, and if you're in that state, you can't bet on schools in that state. So again, PointsBet was allowing people to bet on it. Again, I don't think it was a large amount of action, but they ended up voiding all of those bets. Now, August 2021, and this is the violation I think is most interesting. So it left pregame lines open on a game that had already began. So essentially a broken line, left open. It was the pregame line. It was still there. And one bettor betting those lines, he got in about $13,000. He won about $28,000, and all the bets were voided. It was a broken line, of course. Now, here's what's interesting. In the explanation to the regulator, the company said that it did not have an automated process in place to review the accuracy and timeliness of published markets. Goes on to say, PointsBet stated that the overwhelming number of matches offered through its sports betting site made it unrealistic that it could check and verify each event in the market offered for wagering. And then it also points a finger at its odds provider, saying that an unresolved communication issue between itself and a third-party data feed provider was part of the issue. So pointing out that its odds provider had some kind of communication issue with it. So you got PointsBet here. We have 3 violations, and the total fine is $25,000. I mean, not exactly a lot of money for a sports book, but I think it's interesting here that the company basically saying, look, we got so much on our sports book, we can't keep track of it all. We can't verify it. We can't ensure accuracy because there's just so much there. And also these guys we work with, they suck.
It's amazing. Did the bettor get paid?
All bets in all of these 3 violations, they were all voided.
Well, I do like that they were fined for the same thing that just happened to the Score and Barstool. So maybe we'll be talking about them getting fined around this time next year.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
PointsBet is amazing. Like, that's an amazing book. If you're sharp bettor and you haven't used them, go crush them. But don't expect it to last long. And I don't know if we can expect them to last long either. But they've hung around, and the longer they do, the better for anyone that gets to use them.
Their advertising campaign here in Ontario was just massive. About a year ago, I remember PointsBet was like the only sportsbook that I would see while I was out sort of traveling the city of Toronto. It was plastered everywhere. GO Train, Subway, just all over the downtown area. They were absolutely everywhere. So the marketing spend just huge with that company. It would be quite a fail to see them disappear.
Right. Well, yeah, get them. Same thing with the Score, Barstool, Win, whatever. Get them while you can, guys. Go do damage to them and exploit those soft lines and opportunities. I'll give you an example. Last night, PointsBet had under 42.5 open in the Rams-Bengals game, with one play away from kneel outs on like 3rd and 1 or 2. The probability of them picking up the yard there on 3rd or even potentially 4th down is close to 80%, and they had 1.9 or minus 110 for under 42.5. And there isn't a sports book on the planet that had lines open at that point in the game, because they've been exposed to people taking advantage of them in that spot. And PointsBet was sitting there wide open, and a bunch of members at inplayLIVE were able to wager on that line. So the more books that you have, the better, because it allows you to spot these opportunities. And what you might not know is what to wager on in that spot. So you go, oh, this sports book is the only sports books offering lines right now. Usually that means that they shouldn't be. Now, which side of the line you bet on is obviously where we help people out quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to another sports book, one that you're very excited about in this conversation around soft books. Sports Interaction, the new and improved version 2.0 coming out. Talk to me about why you're excited for this.
I think the same reason why we've touched on the Barstool changes and anything else in this industry. The more options that you have to wager on different lines, the better. Now, I don't know a lot about the change with Sports Interaction because as we're filming this, it has not released as it was anticipated to release today. It's now being released tomorrow, which is when you are viewing this at the earliest. So as you guys are listening to this, Sports Interaction 2.0 is now it's supposed to be out. So I don't know if it actually is, but the lines that Sports Interaction, Sports Interaction is a long-standing Canadian sports book, and it's been available in every province, and it's been a staple in Canada. We used to have a joke back in the early 2010s where you'd go to make a live wager on Sports Interaction, and we'd start counting down from 30 as a joke because you could never get your bet in because the spooling was so long. So as soon as we'd click a bet, we'd all be like 29, 28, 27 in the room, like yelling as a group, trying to spin a bet. And then if the bet got in, we'd all cheer, like it clicked and accepted. We'd be like, yeah, like celebrating, we got our dopamine hit because we actually got the bet in. So yeah, pretty funny. But the lines that they offer are just so readily available. If you're using a crypto book, chances are that those are the same lines as what they're offering at Sports Interaction, and a pretty famous offshore known as BetUS offers those Sports Interaction lines as well. So I guess what I'm getting at is those lines are just, they're everywhere. And the fact that they're switching over to a new site, I'm hoping that it's a new odds provider and that it presents some new opportunities. I know that they, like being a Canadian staple from the unregulated market, they're a company that's operated by the native something rather in Canada. So I don't know how to properly describe it, but they're essentially have been one of the only sports books that have actually been able to no gray area, like legally operate in Canada. And then since the regulation in Ontario with DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, all these major sports providers coming to Canada, they have really lost market share. And I think that this is a move for them to remain competitive across the entire country. So yeah, I'm excited. I think there's going to be some great opportunities, and at a minimum, even if the book is sharp as hell, it's a new opportunity for us.
Right. Another new book out there. If you're getting cooked on a lot of books, here's a new one you can turn to. Or if you were cooked in the past on Sports Interaction, is there a chance that you could, open a new account now with them?
That is usually a no.
Right.
But you never know until you're in the moment. So we'll have to figure that out in the coming weeks, and perhaps something we could touch on next week in the episode and give you guys an update on that new site.
Okay. We look forward to hearing more about it come next week and get your thoughts on it then. All right. Moving on. Now, this one, Pace, here, I think is one that really speaks to your heart, because you are often talking about latency, and latency has come up on our show quite a bit, and it's for good reason. It's important, right? And it really matters, especially in the moment when you're trying to get bets in and you're trying to see what happened during a game or a match or whatever it is you're watching, and you're trying to stay up to minute and have the best information available at the time. Latency can be everything, and so. We've got this bit of news out, just coming out today from ESPN, and Genius Sports, which is the official data distributor for the NFL, is launching something called Bet Vision. And so you can bet and watch all on the same screen. Now, they're calling this a first for American sports books. Caesars and Fanatics are already rolling it out. Bet Rivers is also expected to get on board, and it is promising low latency, which is just wonderful. But this idea, first, that you can bet and watch all on the same screen, and it being a first, I'm kind of going like, is it a first? Because I think you can do that on Bet365 already.
Yeah, I think so. BetVision has been used by Caesars. We've actually touched on this in the episode, in a previous episode, where we were talking about sports broadcasts being on Caesars available for primetime games. BetVision is that software or technology that's allowing this low latency broadcast. So if anyone's familiar with Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, there's just no latency at all. So BetVision, it's 4 seconds from being on the field. BetVision is offering that same level of low latency for Fanatics, Caesars, and a couple of other sports books now. And yeah, from my standpoint, I'll have this. You guys have seen my setup. I'll have this unbelievable, really fast, good coaxial feed that's 8 to 10 seconds latent from what's happening on field. And there'll be guys on the stream with us in the United States using Caesars or Fanatics and watching the game 4 to 6 seconds ahead of me and calling out what's happening. So from that standpoint, I feel envious and jealous. Now, that's not what 365 is using, but I do think it's worth me sharing something relating to 365. So, okay, these are low latency broadcasts. BetVision's quite a bit quicker than this, but these are oftentimes just slightly ahead of my my coaxial feeds. And I'm going to show you how you can actually watch the games. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And this works for NFL in Canada on Sundays. So I'm on Bet365. All you have to do is have a balance in your account of a penny or more. And I click on the game, and here I am watching, some random basketball game. But what's really cool is in the bottom right, this full screen option appears if you minimize your browser. So you make your browser as small as you possibly can, and then this pops up. Now I've got a full screen broadcast, and if I want, I can click here, and it'll fill up the whole screen and be a nice, big, large broadcast. But if I click on here and I click on the games, that's all I have to do is click on this. Bet365 is going to give me every basketball game that's being played right now live. And then what I can do from there, this last one's just taking a second to load, but it will load because there's a whole bunch of games I'm going to show you guys here in a sec. That one's going to start playing here shortly, but then I can full screen my browser and use this as just an incredible resource to watch live games. And if I scroll to the right over here, you can see all these games that I've caught live. So something that I'll do on Sundays is I'll put these feeds up on my TV wall and have all the NFL games on using this feature, but you don't need a crazy setup for this, which is so cool about a company like BetVision, that they're not at this level where you can do this all at the same time right now. They're just offering just the primetime games as we're making this. But as they progress and as their technology progresses, they're going to have features like this to remain competitive with Bet365 with even less latency. And I might go, okay, I want to know what's going on in this game over here. So I scroll over and I click on it, and then that's going to go to full screen. But then not only that, if I click back and go back to the broadcast, the game that I just clicked on will be the one that has the sound on it now. So you can go through, select the one that you want to have sound on. And like I said, all of these are really low latency, which is just incredible. So BetVision, very cool. Bet365 has been doing this for a long time, but they've really improved their technology. And for people that are cutting cables, paying for these crazy subscription fees, with like YouTube TV and latency and all that stuff, the best option is sitting here on the sports books, because they want to encourage people to obviously bet. And if they can offer the game better than your cable provider, they're going to be giving you another reason to come onto their website and use their product and system. So you could look at it as a trap from that standpoint. But obviously, if you're doing this with any level of success, or you just want to put $1 in your Bet365 account just to watch some sports and never use the betting platform, that option exists as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool option. I noticed it for NFL this year, being in Canada, and I know that if you're in the US, you can't necessarily get all those games on Bet365 and watch them the same way. But what a great alternative it is, because it just gives me another source now where I can, okay, I've got a game on my TV. Obviously, Pace, my setup is nowhere near as sophisticated as yours, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But I can have a game on my TV, and I can also pull up something else on another screen, and now I got Bet365 to scroll through and jump into any game I want at any given moment. It's really really helped on Sundays. I absolutely love it. But I will say that it is latent, and it's much more latent than my coaxial feed. So I would say it's got about a 5 to 10 seconds depending on what the game is. And
that's your internet, Shane.
Oh, is that my internet?
Yeah, so like you guys will see me calling stuff, and usually you'll think I'm on time with you if you have a good coaxial feed, or I'm ahead of you. But my Bet365 is usually 1 second ahead to 1 second delayed from my good coaxial feeds. Really? If you wire in on Ethernet with good gigabit internet, you will be seeing a pretty quick broadcast.
Oh, maybe that's my problem then, because I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm using my Wi-Fi most of the time, so maybe that's the issue there. But I guess what I'm wondering then is, if BetVision is going to sort of be launching this product and offering it to all these other sports books, essentially so that they can compete with a Bet365 that's sort of doing the same thing already, will sort of the battlefield be sort of fought on latency, right? Will it become a situation where now 365 is, has the goal, is sort of encouraged to, or incentivized to sort of be faster and be better?
Right. And that's where the argument gets into, are they hanging lines? Are the lines updating with the play? If you look at really sharp books like Bookmaker and Pinnacle, they're updating as the play is occurring if you're actually at the game. Whereas a lot of these other books aren't necessarily able to do that as well. So Bezos has made it pretty clear that he wants to take over like streaming sports exclusively, like not the NFL, not baseball, like sports. He wants it. So
he wants it all.
I want him to have it. I want him to have it because he's already shown that he produces a spectacular product. So with that Thursday night football feed. So back to the whole YouTube TV thing. Shame on you, Google. Like, this technology's out there. Companies with far less resources than you are producing a superior product. Latency, a lot of people don't necessarily overall care about, but people that love sports will say, "Oh, I'm shutting my phone off to watch this game." because they know that they'll get notifications and things like that with the current landscape. So ultimately, I just think it's all really positive. I've noticed significant improvements from 365 from last year to this year. If you're comparing that to your coaxial feed or YouTube TV, you're not going to get the same quality. This is going to be a little bit more pixelated, but it's improving and it's coming. And like I said, the Amazon product, it's not pixelated, it's beautiful. So the technology's out there, and things are just going to get better from here.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see it advancing the way it is. Okay, this might be a bit of a pain point for you this morning, Pace. But you had like a massive parlay going, and we discourage parlays in a big way here on the show. But you had a very specific reason for doing it. Give us a sense of why you put together this massive parlay on Fanatics, and how close was it?
Yeah, so last year I wasn't on Fanatics, I was on FansBet. And if you guys hear the name of that sports book and you think like, oh great, another sports book, absolutely, I would recommend not to play there. Basically what happened was last year I deposited $1,000 into my FansBet account, and I think I went about 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, and my unit size is above $1,000, so I'm not afraid to deposit the $1,000 and just bet it all on the first bet or whatever the case may be. And I ran it to about $10,000, and then there was a slate of sports coming through, and I basically deployed all of that $10,000 across like 8 to 10 wagers, all in the span of about 5 to 10 minutes. And basically what I had noticed at that time was, rather than them limiting me and going, okay, you can't play here anymore, you can only spin in $1, they put all the wagers in a spooling process where they don't accept your bet for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And what they did in
20 minutes?
Yeah.
Come on.
What they did in each of the cases was they waited until the outcome was known to either accept the wager or block the wager. So all the winning bets got blocked, and all of the losing ones got accepted at the time that they lost. So they stole that money back from me. With no recourse, right? So I was doing research last week and trying to find some unique sports books to use for college football. And I have definitely gone down some rabbit holes of using some shady books. And that's something that, some people can choose to do and other people not choose to do, whatever the case may be, and run the risks that you run. And I know that. And it wasn't FansBet, but here I was with a couple $1,000s in this new sports book, and I all of a sudden see the same spinner. And it's a very long spinner when you're not limited, so it might be 30 seconds or a minute. And I was like, oh shit, I'm never getting this money. So I decided to just make a parlay with all of it, with the intent that I'm going to lose the money, but if I win, I can wager this money through a sharp sports book to get that money out. So if you don't know what I'm referencing there, let's just say that I made a 2-pick parlay, and there's 4 potential outcomes in a 2-pick parlay. It's win-win, lose-lose, win-lose, and lose-win. So basically what I would do is I'd put the parlay through, if I won this parlay, I'd put the parlay through the shady sports book, with the win-win option being on that shady sports book, and then cover off all the other 3 outcomes at Pinnacle. And I'm going to lose vig over time, but eventually I'm going to drain my money out to my Pinnacle, where I know I'm going to be able to get my money out. And if any of you guys ever have a challenging sportsbook scenario or situation where they're not paying you, but they're still allowing you to bet, that's the key. You can funnel and siphon your money out that way over time. And of course you are losing money by doing that. But that was kind of like where I was at with this. Now, this is pregame. They spooled the pregame wager for 60 seconds. It was sitting there spinning and spinning and spinning. Now, this is this last Sunday slate. So the Colts were +8 at 1.9. It spun me in at Colts +7.5 at 1.78. The Lions were -2.5 at 1.9. It spun me in at -3 flat at 1.76. Dolphins were -6. They spun me in at -6.5, 1.78. Chargers money line was 2.0. They spun me in at 1.85. Buffalo Bills -6 was 1.9. They spun me in at 1.81. Pittsburgh Steelers money line, I don't know what it was, but it spun me in at 2.16. And the last leg for 550 pays $59,000. Drum roll. Tampa Bay Buccaneers money line against the Eagles, 2.65. So I did this parlay as just a long shot thing to try to get some money out of a bad situation. And yeah, I almost got it, but I actually think that 500 pays 59,000. Like, had I have placed that at bookmaker, it might pay 100,000. Like, it literally might be double because of the odds that they spin you in. And so yeah, don't use FansBet or that odds provider if you ever come across them, as Walter White says.
Wow, what a shady book. I mean, unbelievable to think that that's the kind of thing they're going to do. Even on a pregame parlay, they're going to change all your odds, even just change the lines. You know, it's one thing to change the odds, right? And a lot of these sports books have that where it's, you know, accept all odds. And you kind of got to do it if you want to spin a bet in a matter of 10 seconds like we do when we're betting live. So you sort of have to click the accept all odds. But with accept all odds doesn't necessarily mean accept all lines, and they change right. They change the lines on you. Now that's a killer, and I don't know how they get away with it. But you know, it's just unbelievable to think that a book would do that to you pregame. You know, unbelievable. But you know, for all of you out there listening, like, you know, hey, why is he doing this parlay? I think, you know, Pace explained it really well there. He wasn't going to get his money, and he knew it. So this was sort of an opportunity for him to say, okay, let me see if there's a way here that I can make some money out of this sports book. And so sort of he had that plan to sort of bet against with a sharp book and sort of siphon the money that way. Okay, let's move on now. Pace, I know you're really excited to talk about this. I'm very excited to ask you about it. I've seen your setup. We've shown it here on the show before. I've seen it in person, and it is truly awesome. Just an incredible sports betting setup. But now the world, or at least the world of TikTok, knows how awesome it is. You posted a video, and wow, this thing went very viral. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, I had always, if I'm being 100% honest with you, Shane, you and I had talked about this a little bit of like doing almost like an MTV Cribs style sports betting show where we went around to some of the members of inplayLIVE and you know, checked out the best setups. And we kind of always wanted to do it as a pilot. So I decided last week, like, I've always had a bit of a passion for like video editing and obviously technology and things like that. And that's kind of led me to where I am to an extent. But yeah, I was like, oh, I'm going to put together like a 60-second version of my setup and put together some of the cool features of it, like everything from Halo to NFL and college football. So yeah, put together that setup. But it actually, the virality side of it is cool for sure. I think that chasing virality in today's day and age is a little bit of a problem. But nonetheless, I thought it was really cool. So it's nice and cool to see that other people thought it was as well. And hopefully they got some cool ideas for their living room or sports setups or things like that around the world. But what's really funny is that like there's been guys that have messaged inplayLIVE members this setup saying, this is insane. Have you guys seen this? And they've sent it over and they're like, that's the group. Like, that's the guy that runs the group that we bet together with. But it actually blew up on Instagram as well. It's just about at 1 million now on Instagram as well. So yeah, it really blew up, and people are really positive and saying really, really great things about it. But it's also crazy how many people on social media just watch videos not like this, just watch their reels, and then they just comment whatever they find wrong with it. And there's some studies that have been done, like what's more powerful, positive thinking positively or reducing negativity. And by far the greatest impact that you can have on your life is eliminating negative thinking and thoughts. So there are people that are in this world of chasing social clout or that are fully occupied by social media, where the way that they are occupied is 100% surrounded by intentionally going out and being negative. And you really see it when you have comments coming in every few seconds on a video where people are spiteful or hateful or things like that. But overall, the overwhelming majority it was really positive, and it's cool. I'm glad people liked it.
Well, hopefully it continues to be mostly positive. And I think you're absolutely right. Just block out all that haters, all those haters and trolls and all of that sort of internet bullshit, that comes along with, getting really viral and going really big on these social media platforms. But it was awesome, to see this morning, your TikTok video, 1.2 million views is what I saw this morning, and the Instagram video. And I'm thinking, yeah, it is a cool freaking setup. Yeah. And, it's something to aspire to. And all of you out there who are listening and watching and thinking, wow, I'd love to have that. Well, you know what? You can. You can do it, and you can do it by making money on sports betting. And you don't need to have a setup like that in order to make money betting on sports, right? Pace, your setup was not as sophisticated as that when you first started.
Well, I was thinking about this yesterday, and specifically with what I just showed you guys on Bet365. And I know that some people in the US don't have access to that sort of multi-broadcast on Bet365 for the NFL, but you would have it for some other sports. In Canada, that works for baseball as long as it's not a Detroit Tigers or Toronto Blue Jays game or Seattle Mariners game. Those three teams, if they are playing, those games won't show up on Bet365. But it works for the NFL and it works for all the other MLB games. It doesn't work for college football. It doesn't work for NBA. But regardless, I always think in the back of my head, what will I do if this isn't here? Like, what's my plan B? Because I do need access to this kind of stuff. But pretending that you do have access to some of these streams. So let's say you are using YouTube TV in the United States. You can do the 4x4 broadcast on one screen. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if you have the ability to put up some of these broadcasts and some of these screens, and by the way, other sports books are offering games, and all the games. You can watch a lot of them on BetUS. You can watch a lot of them on BetOnline or Sports Betting AG, offshore sports books that anyone in the world can get that actually don't require a deposit to watch the game. They're not as good of broadcasts as what we've been discussing on this feed, but I end up using them, and I use them for college football as well. But if you don't want a social setup, so one that a bunch of people can watch, you can go get monitors from Costco that are in the few $100 range, or you could go get a 100-inch TV and plug it into your computer. Now, that's a little bit more expensive. Then not even have an HDMI matrix that controls it all, but simply have it set up to your computer where you build these feeds of the games that you want up, and either have them on a smaller screen very close to you, right as a part of your setup, or like I said, a 100-inch plasma that's connected, or LCD TV that's connected to your computer as your display, where you can drag and drop and build it how you want, so that you can have access to that information. And the power of that is that what you are seeing is with your actual eyes. Recognizing latency is very important. So am I seeing this information up to date or not? But the point being is, if there is a flag, you see it. If the sports books have the wrong team with the football, you aren't operating off of bad information. You know how many fouls are in the game. You make your own opinion on the review. Was it a completed catch? Was it incomplete? Did he foul him? Did he not? The list goes on and on. It allows you to have your own personal opinion of what's going on in the games, and be following it in a way that allows you to see the game flow and not just, dots on the screen. So I think there's a very cheap version of what I have and what I do that's available for the masses, using this new technology of being able to watch games relatively live through these providers.
Exactly. And then you use that, you build your bankroll, and then you can go and get the pace set up.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
All right, buddy. Well, it's great to see the success that video is getting, and just really happy for you and inplayLIVE and the community as a whole, because when one of us wins, we all win, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
There we go. All right, buddy. Till next week, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code BehindTheLines.